The corporate state. Did democracy quietly end? What if governments we think run society stopped being the most powerful institution years ago? What if elections still happen? Presidents still change flags, still wave, but the real infrastructure of power quietly shifted somewhere else? Because in the modern world, the corporations control the communication, the algorithm control the information, the banks control the transactions, the platforms control the attention, and the data companies know more about you than you and the government do. So tonight, we need to ask the question that sounds like conspiracy fiction, I know, but may actually be the defining reality of the 21st century. Did democracy slowly evolve into corporate operating system? For most of human history, we belong to kings, the empires, the governments. But sometime in the last century, something changed. Corporations stopped being simple businesses and started becoming global infrastructures. Oil companies began influencing wars. Banks began influencing economies. Defense contractors began influencing foreign policy. And tech companies began influencing, reality itself. Today, a handful of corporations control what billions of people see, what they buy, what they believe, who gets amplified, who gets buried, and increasingly how humans interact with the world. And unlike governments, corporations are not limited by borders. A government controls territory, right? A corporation controls systems, and systems are harder to escape. Think about it. Your phone, your banking, your entertainment, your shopping, your navigation, your communication, your work. How much of your life now flows through private corporate infrastructure? Because once a corporation becomes essential to daily survival, is it still just a company? Or is it becoming something closer to a digital nation? The most valuable resource on Earth used to be oil. Now, it may be human attention. Because attention can be converted into influence, behavior, purchases, ideology, and eventually control. Every click, every pause, every swipe, every search feeds systems designed to understand human psychology at a level previous civilizations never could. Not because someone is manually watching you, no, but because algorithms are learning you quietly, constantly. Your fears, your habits, your routines, your emotional triggers. And the strange part, most people volunteer for it. We traded privacy for convenience, navigation instead of maps, streaming instead of ownership, cloud storage instead of physical memory, algorithms instead of discovery. And slowly, human behavior itself became data. The modern economy no longer just sells products, it sells prediction. Because if a system can predict your behavior, eventually it can begin shaping it. And once corporations influence information, communication, commercial identity, and attention, they stop functioning like business alone. They begin functioning like environments. Now, here's where things become harder to separate. Because the line between corporations and governments has become increasingly blurry. Governments rely on private tech infrastructure, private defense contracts, private cloud systems, private pharmaceutical companies, and private data analytics. Meanwhile, corporations rely on governments for regulation, protection, subsidies, legal frameworks, and military stability. The result? A merger of interests, not always through secret conspiracies, but through dependence, through lobbying, through evolving doors, through public-private partnerships, through systems becoming interconnected. And that's what makes the modern era different from old school dictatorship narratives, to be honest. There may be mastermind is what it is. No single smoke-filled room. Instead, power becomes democratized. Access networks, financial systems, media systems, AI systems, government systems, intelligence systems, corporate systems, all feeding into each other, right? An ecosystem of influence. And in ecosystems, you don't always notice the environment changing while you're inside of it. Now add artificial intelligence to all of this, because AI may become the final accelerator. Imagine systems that predict behavior, automate employment, filter information, monitor transactions, recognize faces, generate persuasion and scale, and personalize everything that we didn't have individually. Not some distant sci-fi future, now. Really, now. The question is no longer, can technology influence society? That already happened. The real question is, who controls the systems that control society? Governments? Corporations? Algorithms? Or some fusion of all three? Because once infrastructure becomes totally digital, control becomes invisible. And invisible systems are harder for populations to challenge. Not through force, I'm not saying that, but through dependence. Maybe this is simply the natural evolution of civilization. Maybe massive corporations are inevitable in global connected world. Or maybe humanity quietly crossed into a new era without realizing it. An era where nations still exist, but systems matter more than borders. Where attention is currency, where data is power, where algorithms shape the culture faster than governments ever could, that's for sure. And where the new empires don't conquer land, they conquer dependence. The strange part is, most revolutions in history were obvious. While they were happening, well, they're almost invisible. No dramatic takeover, no singular moment, just a slow transition from physical power to digital power. And maybe that's the biggest signal shift of all. Do you think corporations have become more powerful than governments? Or is this just a natural evolution of the modern world? Let me know below. And if you want more deep dives into systems quietly reshaping reality, subscribe to Signal Shift, because the future may already be here, and most people still haven't noticed it.